Colin, welcome. It's really a pleasure to have you with us. Guys, this is Colin Ambler. He is the co-founder, co-owner of Noble Dentistry in Jenkintown, Pennsylvania, which is a practice doing over 7 million in revenue from its startup a number of years ago with his partner, Dr. Blyler. They are in Jenkintown, Pennsylvania. And then also, Colin is the founder of a great product that we're going to talk about today called Team Care. I think it's a fabulous idea. They've got hundreds of clients throughout the United States. It's a great tool to incentivize your team to perform well. We're going to get into that in good detail today. So, Colin, my condolences to your Eagles for last weekend. Welcome. I'm happy to have you with us today.
Thanks, Mike, for having me. Just a reminder, as we are the reigning Super Bowl champions, we will be back, but I appreciate your condolences.
Yeah, it's early in the season as we're recording this, so time will tell. You've already told me who your favorite Kelsey is, and it's the brother that's retired, correct?
That's
Jason.
right.
All
No
right, cool,
question. No question.
cool. Well, you married into dentistry, as I understand it, and to have a practice that's doing over 7 million, one location, multiple doctors. I know everybody watching right now is going, okay, $7 million practice. This is impressive. Tell us the history of you in dentistry and the startup that made Noble Dentistry what it is today.
Sure, Mike. Yeah, thank you. And the truth of it is that we got into it sort of by accident in a way, by obligation. My wife, Sharon, she had started this practice. She was coming out of a divorce and she decided that she didn't want to become an associate doctor and that she wanted to be a practice owner. And so she started her own practice and she started with some working capital and did a whole fit out and the office was beautifully designed and she got all her friends and family to come in and help her get off the ground. But after 6 or 9 months, the well started to run dry. And me as a business guy, I'd ask her when we were coming home at night, how are things going at the practice? What's going on? And, Lou, oh, it's going good. Those kind of responses. And, like, well, do you have any financials? Do you have a QuickBooks set up? How are things actually going? And we started to dig through those layers, and it wasn't going well. The burn rate and the losses were exceeding the gains, and so we were a losing business. And this was in about 2016, and so I started to say, listen, like this needs some help, and so I started to go in and get adopted to, hey, like what's going on. And that's really when we started to work as a team. And I think that there's a wonderful team that can be commonplace in the dental industry with husbands and wives, and they do kind of this combo, and it's really wonderful because it's someone you can trust. And for like a practicing dentist that is seeing giving patient care, for as a focus, and it's like those are the people in front of you. What's going on at the front desk? Is that person really driving the business, handling the phones, making sure the money gets collected, all these things that are like essential to the business. And
So
so,
you wound up coming into the practice full time? You were there every day?
yeah, and part of it was I was doing business school. I was at business school at the time. I was living in Chicago, and I was going to the University of Chicago Booth School of Business, and I was finishing up, and the timing of it was like that, and so the kind of the opportunity was good, and I said, all right, yeah, yeah, I'll jump in, and we had read some literature, some things around the industry that I was never aware of. And I said, and it was like, hey, there's a big opportunity in dentistry. It's like it's a really great business. You can make a lot of money doing it. I said, really? I never thought about dentistry that way. And people started to talk, and I started to seek out that information that said, the demand for dentistry is far more than what you can sustain as everyone has teeth. Everyone's a potential patient. And if you can, service it, if you can make systems and you can bring people into your practice, like you can make this a really sustainable business and grow it, and you can add associates, and you can find your way to be a business owner and not just a business operator. As they say in dentistry, you can step away from the chair. And when I got introduced that concept, that was what really set me on a new path. I was like, that sounds like the place where I need to go. That's what we need to do.
So you graduated from University of Chicago, got your business school degree, and after graduation, is that when you went in full time into the practice?
Yeah, actually, at the time, that was somewhat of a demotion of sorts. The University of Chicago was a prestigious business school. A lot of my classmates and colleagues there were going on to, seemingly prestigious roles on Wall Street or in corporate America. And I was like, I'm going to work at the front desk at a, small time local dental office. But I didn't really take it that way. I've always had a very entrepreneurial spirit, and I like working for myself more than anything else. And so it really was, but that was kind of people were kind of shocked, like, what? You're doing what? And so yeah, that was when I first went in full time.
Well, little did they know what Colin and Sharon were going to be accomplishing working together. So, that was 16, 17. You came in and you saw the need for some changes. And typically in a dental practice, it relates to staff or systems or both. And so I presume you addressed some things on the system side, maybe on the staff side as well. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, and I think 100% correct. And I think that in some ways we were starting from blank slate. People call it a scratch practice. And in some ways, that's a luxury because you get to build clean from the ground up. I think as I've worked with lots of doctors throughout the country, it can be sometimes harder to tear down what's existing and break that paradigm and start something fresh. But as we started to explore different best practices of the industry, we just were introduced to those concepts for the first time. We didn't have to break bad habits. And so early stage things like make sure that 100% of your patients get pre-appointed into, your next 6 months. Like the first time I heard that, I was coming from other parts of industry and I was like, oh my gosh, like this dental industry has this inherent growth model. Like, it's almost like a subscription model where they just keep coming back, and every period you can retain 100% of your patients and then get growth by new patients. And if you do that, it's this compounding cycle where, I mean, one of the things that I love to say that was told to me was that with your hygiene department, every month could and should be your best month. That if you're retaining all of your patients from current previous, and you add new patients, why would you ever have less patients in 6 months than you do today?
Yeah.
Um,
Let me
I was
let
like,
me let me interject a quick question
yeah,
or two here, Colin. So let's paint the picture a little bit better. So it's 2017, you're there, and you're still in the same location. So from scratch, give us the size of the facility, how many chairs, etc. Paint the
sure. It
picture for us.
was, yeah, it was small. We're in an office building. We had very low visibility. We're on the fourth floor. The office building, very little signage, and so that was a challenge. But we took one suite within that building, and it was designed for five, maybe four, actually, operatories. We did plumbing in all of them, but we put chairs in two of them, and that was just by financial constraint. So
Right,
little
right.
office, four, maybe five operatories, at the time we had like a little break room for people to go into, like a little office manager cubby. All of those things changed, but it was a really small office, and it was in its inception, it was just meant to be, this kind of maybe one or two doctor thing.
So, and
And
you were in that location for how long?
same location. So
So
we've
you're in the same
never,
location still today,
yeah, we've never moved.
but
So
you've
fast
expanded. You've got how many operatories now?
14.
And so
So
you took over more square footage adjacent to your original office?
yeah, that's right. And again, like I think people had helped foreshadow kind of what growth could look like. And so being a tenant in a corporate space, you don't have control and you're confined by, your neighbors. And so I was always worried about that at that time. And we had an opportunity come out right about when COVID broke out, that one of our adjacent neighbors, ended his lease, said, I'm going out of business. Like COVID shook a lot of things up, and he took his business and went to work from home. And so there was that opportunity to more than double our floor print. And that was a big leap of faith at the time. We had 4 or 5 operatories, and we built an additional 6 at the time of COVID. And so we undertook that project, and it was multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars to do it, to take
Now,
loans and finish it
at
up.
that time, you had come in and you and Sharon putting your heads together, you created success, right? And you took something that was on thin ice, got that turned around. You're happy with the numbers, and you took advantage of the opportunity. And correct me if I'm wrong. You're still on the fourth floor of this office building, is that right?
That's right.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you're on the fourth floor of an office building in Jenkintown, Pennsylvania, and you doubled it to how many operatories?
At the time that was 12,
And you have now how many?
14.
Okay, and you're still in that location today.
Yeah.
Okay, so anybody watching, it's like, oh, whoa, wait a minute. Like you're not on the ground floor, you're not in a freestanding building, you're on the fourth floor in Jenkintown, Pennsylvania, and you've got how many doctors in the practice altogether?
7.
Seven. And you're rocking and rolling, doing over 7 million in sales and growing, correct? All
Correct.
right.
Yeah.
Well, number one, kudos to you. If you were one of my champion dentist clients, you definitely get the gold medal. Awesome stuff. Let let's talk a bit about on the marketing side. Marketing is how you communicate the sales. As I look at it in dentistry, is what you say to the patient. What are the words expressed by everybody in the practice? That's sales. Marketing is a whole different animal, if you will. Website, direct mail, um, Facebook, all these different things that can be done right on the marketing
Mhm.
side. So tell us about what did you do with Sharon to lead to the growth that you had both before the addition and since.
Yeah. The what you mentioned with what you say to patients, I attribute 80% of the leverage of what that can cause. I think that, marketing, there's all forms of marketing. There's digital marketing, there's direct mail, there's so whatever. But that's like a stimulus in my opinion. It just makes the phone ring. And that can be a dead end, or that can be like a really high intake, really good experience. Like putting that under the microscope was something that we focused on religiously. And number one, answering the phone, especially in the early days. If Sharon and I were not at the practice, we would have the phones forwarded to our cell phone, and we would walk around with a piece of paper that said 5, 7, 10 appointments on it. And if we took someone, we didn't care. We didn't have to look at the whole Dentrix, schedule. We say, hey, how about this date at 5 p.m. And we would book appointments from the phone, but we always, always, always answered the phone. I think that that was one of the most opportunistic things that we always took to heart is that I'm not going to miss one phone call. If we're trying to grow and you're serious about it, it's like the phone is the lifeline. And as we started to evolve with, the size, the volume, the growth of the practice, that held true, but phone skills themselves with teammates were always. I mean, we have secret shoppers that call our office and grade the random samplings of phone conversations they have, and I really believe there's an amazing referral, uh, like catalyst that happens from great phone skills. Those are
Yeah.
those are experience. That's the first impression. And if you deliver a great first impression, and again, you're very opportunistic. Hey, do you have any family members at home? Hey, when you go back to work tomorrow, tell your coworkers about us. Like those little touches can really accelerate growth in like crazy ways that are beyond sort of just the marketing itself.
Yeah, it's interesting. Remember the show Cheers, right?
Yeah.
And it's hey, everybody feels at home. And I get the sense that you and Sharon really understood from the very beginning, we've got to be here for people, taking the calls Friday, Saturday, whenever they were coming through on your cell phone. And that carried over to the vibe, the culture that you have in the practice. It has to be that to have a thriving practice. There's got to be a vibe. There's got to be a culture there where people like being there, and that starts with the people that are there, right? The team. They have to like being there. So, tell us more about how you went about creating that culture and the vibe, because then it just, if you will, naturally goes over to the patients, and they love that, and they tell friends and families about you.
Yeah, that's right. And I think some of what you're talking about starts to bleed into what we do at Team Care, where when you start to systematize certain things and you start to make them important, I think that's something there's an old saying that's what gets monitored gets managed, and what gets measured improves. It's like if you want something to happen, you just start keeping track of it and making that a focal point to people. And so, in this context, there's two things that were kind of foundational things that went hand in hand. One of them was these secret shopper phone calls or just call grading, which put an emphasis on phone skills. And anyone that got a perfect secret shopper call got immediately $100, excuse me, $100 cash paid on the spot. And people started to really like that. They're like, I hope I get a secret shopper call. I can do this script. And it served as a training mechanism. And it kind of light bulb went off that, man, this incentive kind of piece is kind of motivating for people. And $100 isn't a make or break thing, but it's something that people got excited about, and it gave them something to strive for.
So you with your business background and if you will, the common sense that you have as an entrepreneur, which is very helpful, right? And your wife Sharon as the co-owner of the practice, I think you both have that. And what the common sense is you're just practical, and you understand, look, there's a difference between somebody getting paid to do a job and somebody being incentivized to do a job. And when
Mm.
there's an incentive, particularly individually or even on a team basis, if it's done right, human motivation toward the dollar is a very strong thing, and that's what you tapped into. When did that light bulb go on? And let's open the door now to the origins of team care, and how were things before you created team care? How were you incentivizing and doing this? And then what was the genesis of you creating team care?
Yeah. So the genesis was looking at what we were doing, seeing some early stage success with some of these incentive opportunities, and looking at them as being a royal pain in the ass to manage and like run the system. So, we had that secret shopper incentive always, and that was really important for phone skills. But what I observed them doing that is like, this works great. And the incentive itself is a management mechanism. I don't need to micromanage the staff members as intensely because they're driven by the incentive. And that was sort of light bulb goes off. I wonder if we introduce incentives into other parts of our systems, if we can have a similar, decrease in management effort. And so we incentivize some early stage stuff. Secret shopper calls were one. Google reviews have always been one too, or any kind of five-star review. Yelp. I used to keep spreadsheets for all this stuff. I used to, when a review came in, I always felt that, as the Google My Business owner account administrator, I was given the notification that said, "Hey, this person wrote a Google review." But I was like kind of frustrated that like nobody else in the office was seeing that. It was just me. And so I used to manually forward this message, and every time one came in, I would hit the forward button on my mail, and I would try to think, okay, well, I got to include Michelle, I got to include Teresa and Bridget and stuff like that. And I was like, man, every time this happens, it's a pain in the butt. And so that was maybe like an early part of team care where it's like anytime I started to see things that were a pain in the butt, I was like, I'd love to maybe streamline this and figure out a way to automate it. One of those things was also with doctor compensation. This was a big one. I think most of the industry is doing a model of doctor compensation that is 30 some percent of either production or collections. And
Right.
some people are taking out a cost for their lab fees potentially. And we started to do that. And it's like, I think people don't realize that that is an incentive model. It's like, if you want a doctor to produce more, they're commissioned on a percentage of their production, right? They're not paid hourly. It's like that is an incentive model. And if you have multiple doctors and you run biweekly payroll cycles, like going through the spreadsheet modeling of like, okay, well, let me pull a report from this and let me, run the percentage on that and let me try to do the like the record keeping of these things. If you start to stack multiple of these things on top of each other, your staff members want them. They want to chase after these opportunities. They want to earn more. It's a very motivating thing. But when you start doing it, you find that as an office manager, you're consumed by like the reporting and the maintenance
Well,
of
particularly when you've got multiple doctors,
yeah,
right? And
exactly.
and you have
And
how many doctors on your team now?
we have seven.
Yeah, so
Uh,
that's a lot to keep track of, right? And all the more reason for team care, which I'm going to ask you to get into in a minute here. But really, what you're talking about, and I want to underline this, Colin, whether you are a doctor as a solo practitioner, or a doctor with an associate, or a doctor with seven doctors in the practice, or you've got multiple locations. Team care, and we're going to open the envelope to this. Team care really is a great tool for helping to manage and grow the practice. Have I described it correctly in your mind?
You have, and it comes from a very practical. I am an operator. I am just like everyone else out there, but I had a passion for systems development, software. It's like, and anything that you would have or have attempted to systematize in your office, and you've attempted to keep a spreadsheet to keep track of information, we've made into a platform that is accessible and scalable to your team, and that you don't have to run. It manages itself, these programs, and I think that often is the fear and the bottleneck that I see with our customers that they're interested in incentives. They hear about them. They're like, I think my staff would love extra earnings opportunities, and I think it would change their behavior. But I don't even want to begin to think about keeping track of that and having to work on the spreadsheets. And so we're that solution, we're that platform that does it.
I love it. So you launched Team Care in what year?
Well, I guess you asked this earlier. Team Care, I guess, was born in what year was COVID? Is that 2020?
Yeah. Hmm.
2020.
So you
That's
launched it
so
internally first for your own practice. Is
Yeah,
that right?
internally first. We were that was kind of the in the software you call it the MVP, the minimum viable product. We got shut down just like everyone else, and I had all these kind of ideas. I had a history in developing apps, and when we got shut down and we were sitting at home for a month and a half, I said, you know what? I think I'm going to get started on seeing if I can make some of these things automated. I think I can make this work that I don't have to do these things manually anymore. I think we can keep track of it, and that if we make this, a platform, everyone in our team can have visibility on it too. It's like everyone can see what the numbers are doing, how much they've earned. This is people like to look at stuff, and so that's really when it took off. During COVID, we were sitting at home. I had these ideas, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna build this, and,
So
and we did it
you
internally
created
first.
this product. Kudos for you. That's impressive right in and of itself right there. Awesome. And now today you have how many active clients using the software?
About 700.
About 700. And from its roots in 2020, and now we're 5 years later, over 700. So that is really impressive. And that, you know, the, there's an expression I learned in dentistry many, many years ago by a gentleman by the name of Art Kroll, Dr. Art Kroll. And he told me when I was 21, Colin, he said, the test of truth in dentistry is time. And of course, he was referring to techniques and products, right? You get this new product, and okay, the manufacturer's pushing it on you, but a year later, they're all failing. Things have, I think, without question, they've gotten better over my 40 plus years in dentistry. But the test of truth is time is also true in so many other areas, and it's true with regard to team care. You created it, you proved it, and now you've got over 700 practices throughout the U.S. using it. Yeah, if if I'm here watching as a clinician or as a practice owner or as an office manager, I'm going, okay, Mike, Colin, show me what this thing's all about. Can we do that? Are you able to get us into this and open the door and show us what the dashboard
I'd
looks
love
like
to.
to team care? All right, so Colin, this is the dashboard to team care. This is where you start when you go into us. Walk us through the features of this and how you're using it, and therefore how your other 700 practices throughout the U.S. are making the best out of what team care has to offer.
Sure, Mike. I'm gonna there's a bunch of stuff that we could go through here, but I'm gonna focus on one of our most popular features that, owners have the most yield out of and staff members have the most excitement out of, and how they earn extra dollars in the office, and it's a real win-win for the office. So, one of those things, and this was one of our first systems that we developed, was around hygiene reactivation. And so hygiene reactivation, when we were doing it the manual old school way, always involved going into your system, exporting a list, putting it into an Excel sheet, trying to keep track, and going to your staff members and saying, well, how many, the list is done, so you say, but Michelle, how many patients did you call? Janine, how many patients did you call? Nobody knew those answers. They just kind of put their initials in there and called it a day. And so this is pretty advanced, and it's a free flow system, but the list is populated here, and kind of the end result, which I'll show you, is what we see on these leaderboards. And so every single staff member is represented here. They all have their accounts, and anytime that they participate, they get credit for one. And there's a saying in when you deal with incentives that you get what you incentivize. And so I would never recommend that you incentivize anything on the number of attempts. The number of attempts can be large, but what we incentivize is on the number of attended patients. And so what we see here is a good example. This is one of our hygienists. Her name is Missy. And whenever she has a, period of dead time in between patients, cancellation, whatever, she picks up the phone and she makes calls, and she really works hard at it. And so what we see here is that she's gotten 16 people to come into the office from her efforts. And the way that we know this is directly correlated to Dentrix or Open Dental or whatever your practice software is. What we see is that Missy called a patient. on Tuesday, September the 2nd, and it has all the notes and things about her appointments, about her effort, her attempt to call the patient. And then we see that the patient that she called, this patient here, came into the office 2 days later. Okay, and so it knows that Missy prompted that patient, called him, and that 2 days later, that patient came into the office. And so we award all of these patients with $10 to that person. Does that make sense so far?
Right. So who got the $10?
Missy.
Okay,
So
got it.
every single person that made attempts on here
Mhm.
is getting paid $10 for every single patient that they get back into the office.
Okay. So for in Missy's instance, it's 10 times 160 times 16.
Right.
Okay,
So
got it.
in this month, we totaled 87 patients that were back in the office. This is for September. We go back, and this is one of the things that doctors, operators love the most. We observe these results over the course of 30, 60, 90 days. When we look at the month of July, we see that we attracted 85 patients back into the office. And those 85 patients yielded 31,000, almost $32,000 of production. And so this is one of the easiest kind of ways to understand the value of this incentive program. Had we not done this, I don't think our staff members would be at all engaged in the process. But we got 85 patients back in the door. We filled our chairs, and all of those patients, to some extent needed a treatment plan, needed procedures done. And when we track all that out, it was $31,000. And so,
Let me go, let me interject here, Colin, because can we go back a screen? Because I saw something on that prior screen, caught my eye relating to treatment plans. I see hygiene. Okay, I see treatment plans up there at the top. Why do I see treatment plans on here as well besides hygiene?
is that over here?
No, it was on the screen where you were just on, and because it showed hygiene, but it also showed treatment plans. There's a tab that you could press on. You go back if you could click on back, and I guess really the question is, are your people also calling when it comes to people that say yes? They say yes to the implant, the veneer, the denture, whatever it might be, but they say I need to think about it. They walk out without an appointment. Um, what is team care being used in that instance as well to follow up with the patient to get them on the books?
Of course. Yeah, so we have two forms of reactivation. One of them is for hygiene reactivation, and what I'm showing you here is the second one for treatment plan reactivation.
Got it.
And and so, again, ownership and attribution are huge for us. And so we look at this treatment plan and we see that Ava in our office was the one that presented this. And for any patient that says no to a treatment plan, we call it deferred. The staff member is required to input a note about why that patient did not go forward with the treatment plan. And so as soon as this list for treatment plan reactivation is populated with all of the treatment plans that were denied, who presented them, and why the patient did not go forward with it.
Understood. Okay. And then
So,
once they actually are attended, they're in the chair, that's when the credit is attributed for getting that patient into the office again for receiving the particular procedure, correct?
yep, correct. Yep.
Okay. And you're able to look at a number that as a practice owner, practice manager that says, okay, well, what were the effects of these calls relating to treatment plans? Is there a dashboard for that shows, hey, here's the result?
We don't have it as much, to be honest, Mike.
Okay.
I think we have lots of dashboards. I'll show you some of the things that we do have around case acceptance. From an individual kind of standpoint,
Okay.
we have leaderboards and things like that. I'm going to show you. This is a lot about our case acceptance, how many treatment plans these guys have done, what their acceptance rates are, things like that. We also
Okay,
do some interesting things about like patient age demographics, like what age buckets in our office are accepting and having more treatment plans than others. But the core incentive module around reactivation is primarily geared towards hygiene.
got it.
That's where we incentivize the most.
But you're also making calls regarding patients who are unscheduled for treatment.
We do, yeah. And I mean, I think the way that we look at that is that those treatment plan calls are a little bit more personal. I
Right.
think that it's directly about the treatment coordinator that may have presented that plan or the doctor that may have presented that plan, and it's kind of part of their job to make those things. Hygiene, I guess we look at as just a little more accessible to all, that anyone can engage in that at any time. And it's like a little bit more opportunistic just to fill in 10 minutes of downtime. And so, yeah, we make it a bigger push within the hygiene world to pick up the phone and call.
Understood. So besides hygiene, and you have the opportunity to use this tool for making calls for treatment, getting booked as well. I think you also are a big fan of Team Care's ability to incentivize people for Google reviews. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Let me show you this. This is one of our favorites. So, what we do is, again, everything is very leaderboard oriented, and we automatically consume all of the Google reviews that come in. And what we do that's interesting and unique is that you see that most of these Google reviews have names attached to them. And I didn't do that by hand. And there's really cool technology that we have that finds this patient and looks at, well, who was their doctor, who worked at them at the front desk, and it automatically assigns those people to it. And moreover, it sends an announcement to the entire office and it recognizes those people. And when the review comes in, it reports out, that a review happened and it shares the good experience. And I think the team really like appreciates that as a culture. When you start to see these things again and again, the staff's like, wow, we're doing a great job here. It's like assurance for what they're doing and the care they're giving. And then it also distinguishes the people that were involved in that experience. And you start to see people getting high fives and, hey, I saw you mentioned in that review. And it becomes this exciting cultural thing that's centric to giving great patient experiences. And so this process is fully automated and it's something that we incentivize. And so
So that review, is that something that's solicited while the patient's there, and are they handed a computer or sent a link by text? How is that review actually getting requested, and how is it getting entered?
yeah, it's primarily through text message. And we have QR codes around the office, and people are definitely soliciting these things in person. I think that that's really the most traction that you get, and it's like when someone gets down into, hey, Mr. Jones, want to let you know we're really kind of hoping to get 100 Google reviews this month. If you had a great experience today, would you mind scanning this code? When you do that in person, there's so much greater of an effect on it than if you just get a text message and kind of dismiss it.
So
And so
in this instance here, you got the review. There are two people noted as being involved with regard to that patient care. Um, what's the financial incentive that you created at Noble Dentistry?
we give $10 per person. ten
Okay.
bucks per person.
So uh, that which is measured and incentivized really has a good chance of getting done, right?
That's right. Yeah,
And what you've done here is, okay, we're going to measure it and we're going to incentivize it. And boy, does that increase the chances that it's going to get done.
100%. Yeah.
And so, you've got a ton of reviews
Yeah, we have
happening for your
almost
practice. And
2,000. Yeah,
yeah,
almost 2,000.
and people look at that, and when Google, Google loves seeing that. You got 4.9 stars. So you're probably pulling a lot more patients than the average practitioner, the average practice. uh, because of how strongly you're using Google reviews, that's really raising your rank when someone does a search, dentist near me, right?
100%.
And so, very smart move on your part because you're taking advantage of, if you will, the free aspect of Google to promote your business. Am I right about that?
100% right. We've actually never done any, we've never put a penny into digital marketing, but I know that we rank first in our local community because we dominate Google reviews. And I think that, it's like that is certainly a trust mark for people that are browsing the internet. I think if there's 1,184 patients that actually wrote a review, there's thousands more that are silently referring us and advertising us to their friends and family. And I think the Google reviews, in my opinion, are a representation of the experience that they get in the practice.
Yeah.
And,
I think
it's
it's
like
absolutely fantastic application. So just to summarize, we're using Team Care for hygiene reactivation. It can also be used for getting people who have said yes in for the accepted treatment, and then it's also being used to incentivize the team to get that Google review. And I love the scripting that you provided, and I know you train your team for that. Is there anything else when you look at team care? We covered three really big ones in my view. Anything else that you want us to know about?
Man, I think that there's a whole world of team care stuff, and I don't want to dwell on all of the features. I think that one thing that people should know is that we do a free trial. If you're just interested in learning about some of this stuff and you want to get in there, as a consumer myself, I'm a big proponent of I want to try something before I buy it. I don't want a long-term commitment. I want to see if this thing sticks, if my staff are going to actually use it, if it's going to give me results. And so that's the way we've built the entire business of Team Care, that it's not going to cost you an arm or leg. It's going to give you great value, and it's a free to start kind of thing. You can just try it. And
Right.
what I think you'll find from doing it is that it's a culture changer. It's a culture catalyst. And when you enable your team to start going after results, and these aren't big incentives, $10, $5, but the results are far outsized, and it allows you to systematize and also to reduce your management. A lot of these things are automated. I don't have to touch them. I don't have to worry about them getting done. People are doing it because of their own motivation, and that's the huge win.
So, Colin, let me ask you, and I know there's other features and benefits that we're not going to get into here, but if we could go back to, if it's possible, to that main dashboard,
Mhm.
and I want to just interject a point because I'm familiar with how this all works. If I'm the practice owner, I'm going to put this to you as a question. Separate from the incentives that are there, we all know that you've got your practice management software and it can produce reports, and you've got things like dental intelligence and add it and practice by numbers. But I have a suspicion, correct me if I'm wrong, that your practice and other team care users, where this is something that gets looked at a lot by the manager, by the practice owner, because this is a really good dashboard on some big time KPIs for the practice. Do you see that where, yeah, this is something that's getting looked at a lot daily by the owner, by the office manager? Am I right or am I wrong?
100% right. It is the source of, I don't know if this was on there earlier, of KPIs and goal-based and like real-time projections about where we're going to finish and results. And like anytime you look at one of our dashboards, there's always a goal orientation. And as managers, you want to be goal, we got to reach the number kind of thing. Um, but in our world, I think that, my goal with this is that I don't want the manager to be the only one looking at numbers. I think that is something that, we run a big office, whether you have a big office or a small office, it's like you want everyone in your office to be engaged and aligned with the outcome of the office and hitting the numbers, right? Like that's what really needs to happen. And so I do get the feedback from other sort of like analytical products out there, like the ones you mentioned, that they're a useful tool to understand what's going on. But I think where team care differentiates is that like we engage the whole team. Everyone wants to get on. Everyone wants to push the numbers, and that's really how you move the needle. It can't just be one person that's like whipping the team and saying we need to hit. It's like we need to allow everyone to get involved and contribute. And I think that when you work as a team like that, I came from sports. I know you came from sports. When you get that team effort, man, anything's possible, and it's not just the one office manager.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you've come up with something that if I were to be in your shoes, Sharon's shoes, a practice owner, practice manager, it's like this makes complete sense, both from the incentive perspective, from the management perspective, the day in and day out, as well as me as the practice owner or the practice manager. So it's not just a single tool. In a way, it's kind of like a version of a Swiss Army knife. When it comes to metrics and incentives. Does that analogy prove true in your
Yeah,
mind,
I
Colin?
think so. I think there's a lot of ways to use it.
Yeah.
But I think in a lot of ways it's just fun. It's fun to get recognized and to feel like you're winning and the office is doing well and you're getting rewarded. Like it's just a cultural difference and it makes the whole tracking process just completely automated.
Well, Colin, what I want to now underline is it's kind of like, wait, there's more. Here's the more. The more is, yeah, as you know, as the founder of TriVantage, we have two divisions to the company, right? We have the Champion Dentist program, which is our coaching program, where we take dental practices from where they are to where they want to be, at the top of the mountain, doubling or tripling their annual take-home income, reducing their stress. That's what the Champion Dentist program is all about. But then we also have a marketing company, Gold Medal Dental Marketing, where we've got state of the art stuff, everything from Facebook ads that work, a lot of use of video, website improvement, all of that stuff. And what I want to share is that we are a team care partner. So our clients are using Team Care and they love it. So I will tell you that if you have an interest in Team Care, there's a link below to this episode. It will allow you to get more information from us on how Team Care works. If you want to have some discussion about how to bring it into your office, as Colin said, it's a no risk trial. And whether you're a coaching client of ours or a marketing client of ours, we can get Team Care into your office, and we're going to be there. My team is going to be there along with the team at Team Care to make sure you successfully implement. And I am of the opinion, Colin, that dentistry is blessed. I mean this sincerely by virtue of what you've created here, because you have solved problems that were problems for your own practice that really apply to any practice out there today that really wants to perform well. And I know I'm preaching to the choir when I say that. When you think about team care, is there anything that you see coming up in the future that you'd like to tell us about?
Um, Gosh, so much. I mean, there's so many things that we're incorporating with AI and scheduling. I think that, our goal is to really like, I mean, name of the game is fill in the schedule, whether that's hygiene schedule, restorative schedule. We have some really exciting introductions coming out with that soon. But I won't go too far down that hole, but I will I'll piggyback off of what you said about your relationship with Trivantage and sort of the coaching relationship. I think all of these dashboards are really great. But not everyone wants to look at dashboards and things like that. And when you have this coaching relationship, all of your coaches have their account and they have visibility into everything going on within team care. And so when you need someone to kind of look at things and maybe coach your staff and isolate who's doing well and who's not at that individual level, we have so many kind of success stories of having this bird eye view that allows you to go in and really kind of look at what each individual person's doing, how they're accountable to their own personal performance, and like identify things that can actually move the needle. It's like let me talk to this staff member. I can see their cases are down, or I can see they haven't really participated in this, or whatever. I think that we get really excited about the coaching relationship side of this because every dentist can and should have one. We've always had one, and it's always good to have perspective and someone else look at these numbers. And so we love
Yeah.
that coaches like yourself can delegate this and can work with clients and see into their practices to help them grow themselves.
Well, we found it to be a great tool. It's simple, easy to use, easy to get going. And yeah, I'm going to repeat that again. That which is measured and incentivized really
100%.
gets done, right? That which is measured gets done. Okay, that's good. But if there's an incentive attached to it, there's a much more greater likelihood that it's going to get done and get done well. In dental practices, and you know this, Colin, you've got to keep score. You've got to be looking at the scoreboard. And I know in dentistry, my heart goes out to dentists where they're dealing with the day in and day out. I get it. The mud, the blood, and the flood of owning a business. A dental practice is a business, but you've got to know your numbers. And it doesn't mean you're having to look at them all day long. And that's what I love about team care is you can be looking at this once a day. You can be other people are going to be looking at this. And when you're playing as a team, I think I was talking to you the other day about John Wooden and his success at UCLA.
Yes,
You know,
I love this.
you don't play a basketball game without a scoreboard. You don't play the game of life without keeping score. And when we're keeping score, boy, you were much more interested in the game, right? And we're
Well said.
inherently wired to want to win. And team care really makes it much easier for the practice to set itself up for winning. Does that make sense?
Ah,
Would you agree with me?
120%. Absolutely. That's why we did it. And I think we're unique in the space. Of course, there's other people that do practice analytics. But that's not really what we do. It's like we are all about staff engagement and making it work as a team and kind of all of those concepts of individual accountability and distinguishing people and recognizing and rewarding them. And that's what I think as my kind of experience as a scaled dental practice that's been very successful with it. Like that's what it takes in systemizing these things and delivering them so that your team can and chase those incentive opportunities and grow the practice. Like it works wonderfully. And we have like a lot of clients, and I hope that we continue to work with more that are interested in this staff-led growth. Like allow your team to help grow the practice with you. It's really powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said, Colin. Thank you so much for your time today. Um, I am really excited about the relationship that we've developed and the partnership that we have and our support and delivery of team care to dental practices. So again, guys and gals, if you want to know more, just click on the appropriate links below, and we're going to get you all the information that you need automatically, and then we can have a conversation as well. And on that note, Colin, thanks very much. And
Yeah.
we will see all of you again in another episode real soon. Thanks.
Awesome.
Take
Thanks
care.
for having me, Mike. Bye.
Cheers.